This is officially
hello.
the comfiest seat I've had on a panel for all of South by. Thank you, Midwest House.
It is comfortable.
It's very comfortable. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the time change. That was not my fault. Welcome to the Venture for People panel at the Midwest House at South by Southwest. We want to thank all of you for being here, and we especially want to thank everybody from the Midwest House team for inviting us to have this conversation. So can we get a quick round for the Midwest House? So this panel is very special for me because this is us boiling down hundreds of hours of conversations that collectively we've had about how we can improve and embrace more folks into the venture community. So I'm Wolf from the Venture Atlas. We have a network of a couple hundred venture funds that are in concert to be able to help unfuck the industry and make it more available for all people.
Hashtag.
And when also I asked Navin this morning how many times I could cuss on our panel. He told me I could only do 3, so I'm down to 2 now.
I also told you to wait 10 minutes into getting everyone comfortable, so you already broke that rule, just to let you know.
If we weren't rule breakers, we would not be here today. I'm really honored to be able to share so many of the conversations that we've had together with y'all and with those of you watching at home. Our industry is at a spot where we have the greatest opportunity to change it that anyone ever has. For the last couple of decades, it has been a very, very closed circle. And we've moved further faster in the last 2-3 years than they were able to do before. But we have not even started to scratch the surface. We have not even been able to break the barrier of 10% going to diverse founders. But we are doing it now, and it is the work that we are doing now which is going to be able to propel us forward in the future. So really quickly, I want to introduce Maddie from TechNexus in Chicago.
Hello.
I love her so much that every time I went to Chicago, I worked at her office until they eventually had to give me a key. And in a moment, we're going to have like the full backgrounds on everyone. And then Navin from Loud Capital. He coined the term venture for people. And we're going to hear all about that all day. And then James Feagin from Detroit. We send so many messages back and forth, but from the first time I met him, he still exists in my phone as the boss of Detroit. So to kick everything off, I would love to hear a little bit about who you are, how you got into the industry, and what you're focused on now. So Maddie, please kick us off.
Sure, I'll kick it off. Hi, everyone. I'm Maddie Rutter, the Director of Collaboration at TechNexus Venture Collaborative in Chicago. Chicago, anyone? Who's Chicago? Oh, cool. I've been with the company now for 4 years, and I would say I had a very unconventional path into venture. I spent over a decade actually in consumer insights, working with a lot of corporate innovators on how they could connect with their customers, connect with their consumers, and create solutions that were very consumer and human-centric. And so I have actually a really big passion for corporate innovation, and that's what I love about working with TechNexus, is because what we're doing is connecting industry leaders and corporations to entrepreneurs in a really meaningful way through capital, through investment, but crucially through transformative partnerships with large corporations, because those are customers, those are transformative. So that's a little bit about me. I'm originally from Ohio, and Ohio. And I will say, because we're at Midwest House, can I say BGSU? Anyone from Bowling Green? Bowling Green? Bowling Green. Woo! Okay.
Love it. All right, Navin, so who are you and what is Venture for People?
So, first of all, it's great to be here. Thank you, Midwest House. Thank you, Will, for moderating this. I am Navin Goyal. My history is I have, first of all, I've married, have two beautiful girls, 14 and 12. So I'm a, girl's dad, and I really resonate when I message things about people and equality, and a lot of things we'll be talking about. We're Venture for People. I used to be an anesthesiologist, practiced for 13 years. I used to put people to sleep. That is not my goal today. I practiced, so I was grateful to do it. I ended up starting a venture called Offer Health, which is a mobile anesthesia company. We take care of a lot of kids in 5 states, including Texas, that have long waits for hospital times. And that shaped my eyes of entrepreneurship, of how it can be impactful and for people. Started Loud Capital 1 year later, which I have my team here. Everyone shout. Everyone from Loud Capital. A lot of great people here. I'm blessed to be on stage with these wonderful people. And we'll get more into it, I believe, on Venture for People.
Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Or as we say, what up, though? Yeah! It's good when you got your people with you. James Feagin. I don't get outside much, so I've been trying to think about how would I explain who I am, because that's kind of the biggest running joke in Detroit. Like, what do I actually do? So, you weren't supposed to laugh that hard. So, I'll say 20-year disruptor. Been a team member at startups, been a consultant, advisor. One of my clients brought me in-house 2 years ago, and that's the Gilbert Family Foundation. So I currently serve as Director of Economic Mobility for the Gilbert Family Foundation. Dan and Jen Gilbert are the founders of Rocket Mortgage. They recently made a 10-year, $500 million commitment to Detroit, and I focus on the workforce and entrepreneurship portion of that. And got some of my founders with me here today. I will shout them out throughout. There we go. So we just launched an initiative called Venture 313, 3-year, $10 million commitment to support IDEA to first round, and some of our founders are here with us.
Thank you all. So glad that you're here with us today. Quick question, and we'll start back with you, James. What are you most excited about right now in the industry and the community that you're working in?
I mean, the answer for me is simple as both. It's literally, so I'll keep pointing at these folks over here. We celebrate, as we should, exits, right? Venture's all about valuations, exits, acquisitions, whatever. But before you exit, you got to enter. And so I am unapologetically owning how do we get more people, particularly black founders, particularly Detroit founders, to enter this industry, to understand it, to internalize what is for them. And what that looks like in real work is my founders who are here. So they're here, they're networking, they're taking this in, they did the research to understand how they were gonna game plan it, they're staying in a house together, they're building relationships. Some of them might have already completely torn up their business models and said, I'm building too small, I'm building the wrong thing, I'm solving the wrong problem. Some of them are gaining the confidence to say, you know what, I'm not crazy. Even though my mom might not understand it, or my friends from high school might not understand it, I found a village here in my house or with some random person from somewhere else, and now they can take that back with them. And when they're hearing no's or silence in their own market or doubt, they have the voices that they'll get in their head this week. And that gets me excited on a micro level, but also what will they do and what will they seed when they go back to Detroit?
So I've spent a lot of time in Detroit. Not like a lot like you've spent in Detroit, but we went up there on a roadshow that Navin and I put together called Radical Collaboration, where we went city to city throughout the Midwest. And I will tell you, I would not be in venture if not for the Detroit hustle. And when you meet someone from Detroit, the best question to ask them is, what is your favorite side hustle this week? Because once you get to know them, you get to know that they work with a musician, an author, a teacher, and a physicist on painting a house, and redeveloping a neighborhood or creating the next great business. So for any of you out there who don't know Detroiters, when we wrap this up, go find some Detroiters. They're so good. Navin, what is your why, and what are you excited about?
Well, what really excites me is obviously entrepreneurship in general. You can take your creative outlet and turn it into a business that can impact people. Venture capital supports that ecosystem. But what's really exciting to me are the young folks. There's a lot of kids, college students, you name it, who reach out and say, how do I get in venture? I have retired folks reaching out. How do I get in venture? How do I participate? How do I learn more? So what I see is an opportunity of all this attention and momentum to responsibly take this and do good for people. Now, for profit, make money, sure. But in the end, let's just make sure all that experience, opportunity, inspiration that we get from everyone around here, and just put that towards problem solving that we see all around the world. And, I tell people, I said I used to be an anesthesiologist. I'm always going to be a physician. And the ethics that I took, the oath, was first do no harm. As soon as you get out into the business world, there's no moral compass. There's a spectrum of people, and that's fine. But my excitement is to help positively influence the business world to start thinking a little more ethically. It doesn't mean we can be less responsible just because we're not in a hospital. It doesn't mean that there's really not patients out there when we're talking about mental health platforms, right? Really, we're all patients. So how do we take care of people in a very focused way? And venture capital, with all this attention, literally a crap load of money, crap load of talent, right? How do we make positive things happen?
Thank you. And Maddie, before we jump onto the beauty that is TechNexus and our official office in Chicago, I just want to point out that if you've not been to Chicago and if you've not been to one of TechNexus's events, you need to go. The first time that I ever went to their breakfast for founders was the best networking event that I've ever done. And then we brought on the Black Founders Brunch, and then that was the best event that I've ever done. And the thing about Chicago, which is separate from anywhere else that I have gone in the country, is they have this network of Gen Z VCs that are sharper and faster than anywhere that I've been so far, and I welcome everyone to challenge it because I want it everywhere. But Chicago is so special, and at the core of that, for us, is TechNexus.
Awesome. I mean, Wolf, it's so great to hear. I mean, you really got to experience our physical ecosystem in Chicago. That's exactly what we're doing. And it's not just founders and entrepreneurs, it's investors, it's corporate executives, it's innovators of all shapes and sizes. And my why of what I'm, really proud of the work that we are doing is really at that intersection point of the corporates and bringing entrepreneurs together. Because yes, we need more people to enter. We need to give them the chance to do that. And then when they're in, they need commercial opportunities. They need partnerships. They need customers. And so entrepreneurs can really rely on these big corporations to help provide industry expertise, knowledge, and those opportunities. And vice versa. I mean, corporations, there's a lot of industries that are right now going through their own transformative moments and disruption. And instead of thinking about siloing off or doing everything on their own, they can leverage and really work with entrepreneurs. And so it's such a collaborative nature and such a huge opportunity. And I just really love those two worlds and creating, the venture ecosystem both globally and in Chicago.
Awesome. So our network runs from the beginning to the top. So we work with angels, we work with syndicates, we work at Series A, we work with all the way through. At what stage do you, and we'll start with Maddie on this one, what stage do you engage with entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so we're engaging from pre-seed to Series B. And all of that very much, depends on our core investment thesis and the areas that are important to us with the industries and the partners that we work with.
Navin, with your 17 hats, can you try and break down what kind of entrepreneurs you work with?
Yeah, number one, it's a long-term relationship. So selfishly, we have to have fun together for a long time. And if we can't have fun together, if we can't joke around, we can't be serious at times when we need to, then the relationship probably won't work. So we look for people who like people, can work with people, and are doing something that believe in so strongly that when times get tough, not if, when, even if it's tomorrow, we work through it. And, I've been a founder of a few ventures. The longest one is 9 years now. And there's so many times where I wanted to quit, but I had something, loose in the head, or maybe people like you who say, you're good, keep going.
Well, I mean, the average marriage in the U.S. is 8 to 10 years right now. And when we look at any investment which we make, like, it is really a marriage. Those marriages have been tested over the last 48 hours, and I'll tell you what, and we're learning a lot about each other. Yeah, to your point, It's a long-term relationship, and the start sets the entire balance.
Yeah, and I want to also say, our investment thesis is also to ensure we're investing in diverse and underserved communities. And what that means, it doesn't mean even the founder has to be from an underserved community, but companies that are actually really pushing access to all communities. And so that's also a thesis. So you not just only have to be fun, hardworking, and a people's person, but you actually have to represent a lot of the people we want to serve.
Feagin. I know, but can you tell everybody else?
So we support on-ramps. If you look at the state of venture today, and folks will say, well, we can't find the companies to invest in, or too many, black founders are building lifestyle businesses and not things scalable. Okay, how do we fix that? How do we solve that? If you look at every industry that has been democratized, from medicine to sports to corporate, every time you've made it more accessible, black talent has excelled. I think venture is in the infancy of what you can really do when you intentionally invest upstream and just making more folks see that it's for them. So we invest there. You call it ideation, call it pre-ideation, call it exposure. I like to speak in plain English. Does today's 8-year-old on the east side of Detroit understand what this thing means? They know how to play with their mom's phone, but you could design the apps you're playing with. And then what's the on-ramp to do that? From skills attainment, exposure, coding camps, the roadmap to venture, how to actually build something that has the scale to then attract and decide if it's for you or not, instead of it being decided before you even get a chance to get in the game.
Amazing. If you had a magic wand, I'm going back to you, James, that we could wave for every single company within your portfolio, what would you ask of the community at large nationally to be able to support those founders?
Take it as a personal indictment that they're not successful. When you take ownership of a problem, whether it's personal or something you're invested in, then it's not, oh, someone should do something about it or hopefully they make it. We fall in love with struggle, particularly, and I'm gonna talk a lot about black people today. You look at The Pursuit of Happiness. We watch that movie and we root for all the things he had to overcome. But nothing against Bill Gates, but no one would say to Bill Gates, let's take all this privilege and access away from you and see how well your rose grows out of the concrete. So we all have a complicit role in the barriers and culture challenges and capital challenges and community challenges that are preventing the folks I serve from ascending. And so if we all just take ownership of our part in it, whether it's if you write checks, write checks. If you can take risks, take risks. If you can download an app and test it and tell 10 people, do it. If you can procure something, do it. If everybody took that level of ownership, then we would move it forward collectively.
Absolutely. Navin, quick question for you. You're based in Columbus, Ohio. So am I. OH.
Oh.
This is only the first time I've ever done that. Why the Midwest?
Why the Midwest? All right, so we're talking, which hat do I have on right now?
Investor? As a VC, as an investor.
As a VC investor, when you talk about the Midwest, you have a much younger venture environment. And so there's a lot more opportunity to educate folks on what venture is and the power of how it can impact society. At the same time, you have a younger environment that doesn't have really high valuations. So you get good, solid business models, a disciplined workforce, a crazy, supply chain and logistics operation in the middle of the U.S., which runs a lot of things around the world, and you invest in that. And so when it comes to value, when it comes to discipline, when it comes to nice people, right? There's nice people everywhere, but there's a really good amount of people, nice people in the Midwest as well. Those are a few things that come to mind.
Do I get to wave my magic wand now?
You get to wave your magic wand now.
Okay. Waving my wand. Okay.
You waved it too hard.
I waved it too hard.
Broke it.
I don't know if any of you folks were here yesterday on some of the panels we hosted, but there was a point that came up around this gap, specifically to Chicago, but I think it's global, where there's not enough kind of corporate dollars involved. Like they don't quite understand venture. They're not as in it as they should be. And so if I could wave my magic wand, that would completely change. We would be bringing corporates to the table, not only through the investment, but they want and are eager and want to take the risk to work with entrepreneurs now to accelerate everyone's innovation opportunity. I think if those two worlds really came together in that way, it would transform all of our experiences as consumers, and it would just be so magical. So that's my wand.
Aw. You waved it perfectly hard. All right, let's quickly talk about your cities. You're representing 3 of my favorite places, and we're in one of my other favorite places. If somebody wanted to come and visit and get a taste from the innovation side, from the startup, from the whole VC world, what would you recommend they do? Is there a specific event, a specific festival? We don't all have South by Southwest, but I feel a piece of South by Southwest in so many of the things that all of you do. When would be a good time for them to come and hang out?
When to hang out?
Yeah, when should they come see y'all?
Oh, definitely in the summer. We're in Chicago, folks. Don't come in February. No. Yeah, definitely. There's so much going on in Chicago. You could probably squat at Teamworking by TechNexus, like, whoa. So
Y'all don't know how big of an offer that is. So in the middle of downtown, if you need to find a place where you can pull out your laptop or have a quick conversation, like that does not exist everywhere. And you don't have to pay for it. You just have to come and become part of the family.
Yeah, shameless plug there. Teamworking by TechNexus. There's lots of other really awesome programs and community organizations. I mean, World Business Chicago, that's a huge one. You come to Chicago, yes, let's give it up for World Business Chicago. And a lot of the programs that they're putting on and taking part in. We've got Get Cities, we've got the Illinois Science and Technology Coalition, MHub, 1871, Matter. I mean, I can go on and on with just all the really great resources for entrepreneurs, and we host a lot of fun events, so please come visit. Not in the winter.
Navin, in addition to June 14th and 15th, when everyone should be in Columbus, what should people do if they come to visit us?
They should stop by. We should go to our favorite breweries, right? We should watch a soccer game together. What else should they do? Meet some great entrepreneurs, actually. There's a whole great ecosystem. Although post-pandemic, we're kind of spread out into the suburbs. But there's a lot of great people. I would call Wolf. You should give your cell number to everybody, by the way.
I'm shocked you haven't already.
Okay. Call Wolf, say, where should I eat, who should I meet, and what should I do? You'll have a wonderful experience. Definitely visit in the summer as well. Maybe after Chicago, come to Columbus. And then we'll have a great time.
And when should people come to Detroit?
So, for the past 5 years, I helped build this event called Detroit Demo Day. And that would have been the really simple answer. It was one day, one stage, $1 million. And we had this really cool event. We had T.I. perform one year. We had Common one year. I think we had, was it Wyclef? I'm not even sure. I figured it out. So I transitioned out of that one-day event because we wanted to have that eyeballs, that simple answer, right? How does the world engage? We traded that for something that you could feel 365 days a year at the founder level and create those on-ramps. And now I'm at the point where if you ask me this question 90 days from now, I'd have a date for you for the big thing we're going to do coming up soon. So in the interim, I would say two things. Number one, go to venture313.com and sign up for the platform so you can stay on our mailing list to know when we push that big thing out. In the interim, I'd say if you just pop in for a day, I'll give you my cell number. You drop by, see my office. We've got TechTown here, who's one of our great physical incubators. If you want to just drop in, check out our ecosystem, know what's available. They've got a great space in Midtown Detroit, in the center of our kind of education and cultural district. And, you know, that's one of the things we're working on, is to make Detroit a city that's easier to drop into. Some of that's a part of a physical space. We didn't have TechTown a few years ago, right? We didn't have Demo Day 5 years ago. And I think we're at the point now of getting back to what is that big signature event.
The wheels are turning. I'm hearing Detroit, Columbus, Chicago. Sounds like we need to rent some Airstreams and road trip this thing.
We're down.
Who's in? Let's do it!
Yeah.
Does TechNexus happen to have any connections with Airstream companies that we might be able to call?
I might be able to look into that.
Sign me up. Sign all of us up. One of the...
As Ted starts walking around the corner.
Yeah, speaking of Ted, y'all should totally take Feagin up on getting his cell phone number for when you come to Detroit, because one of my favorite stories ever about someone who I had not met at that point was Ted was preparing us for a dinner in Grand Rapids, and he was giving me the download on like who each of the people were, and he described Feagin as the kind of person who would put him in his truck for a meeting, drive around blasting music, turn down the music to tell the story of this house and this building and that building, while they just rolled through Detroit. And that is the first meeting they like really became one in. And I want that experience in every single one of your cities. Please, it's the best. So we're about to turn it over to questions, and y'all don't need to hear from me, you need to hear from them. But before we do, I'm just really curious, what is going to be success for your organization? How are you going to know that you've done what you're working so hard to do? I'll kick it off with you, Feagin, because you've got a good head nod on this one.
So when you shouted out Chicago, you talked about that class of Gen Z mentors and investors. My goal is that the folks over here in a couple of years are the ones that, like right now, you know, in Doug's songs walking around, he's super accessible, he's an advocate, he's putting his money where his mouth is, that we got some Black Doug songs walking around that are in Detroit, that when you, like, founders are going to them and saying, hey, can you give me some feedback on my pitch? Can you this? They're sponsoring founder dinners. They're bringing folks to South by. They're sponsoring activations. And we've gotten more folks, you know, yeah, we'll have the exits, we'll celebrate that, we'll have the stats and the data and all we put together, but you start to see more folks that are around Detroit that can facilitate and take ownership of that conversation. That's what success looks like for me on one end, where they're succeeding. And then there's more folks, going back to that 8-year-old, that are now thinking, okay, yeah, there's a basketball court in my neighborhood. There's a, you know, this thing over here that I can do robotics, but I now understand what venture is. I understand when I see an app or when I see a driverless shuttle going down my neighborhood, it's not just about, can I use that thing? It's, can I build that thing?
And yes, they can. Navin, what's success?
I don't think I've really said this before, but we've hit it. We've hit success. It's a continuum. You know, I have a great team. It's been 7 years. We've had 77 portfolio companies, some exits. I have entrepreneurs who are way richer than I've ever been or will be, and they're now investing. They're sending their kids to work for us and with us, and this whole cycle of things are happening. Some of my even, you know, institutional investors are asking, can you talk to my kid about what they should look at for careers, how they should look at entrepreneurship? That's success. And I'm not alone. I represent a lot of people, but it's just continuing that. And then the other thing is I feel like if I disappeared tomorrow, I have leaders in the organization that would continue. So that's legacy to me.
I would say success for me looks like more large corporations embracing venture-enabled innovation. Can I get a round of applause for that? And
Yeah.
wanting to partner. And it's corporations like Thor Industries really leading the way doing that. So they really see the power, and you can see we got a branded activation over there talking about outdoor life. They really understand the power of working with a venture ecosystem to help drive their agenda. And that is really powerful for entrepreneurs because it is really unlocking those opportunities, commercial opportunities, to build your companies. So that is my wish. So let's do it.
All right. These three are incredible. Who's got questions for them?
Awesome. So I'm a kid from Cincinnati, so got Chicago, got Columbus, big OH. So question for me is, I moved to Texas because of the simplicity, taxes, etc., building a hardware business in Austin, Texas. Question is, how can venture and of course entrepreneurs start allowing to, the Midwest big cities, Cincinnati could grow a little more, but how can we start bringing the power back to the Midwest and allow entrepreneurs, especially in hardware, to start bringing tons of jobs and be a huge manufacturing hub back to, the Midwest area, and not allow it to keep coming back down to Austin and Texas? Because I would love to have been able to build my business in Cincinnati, but it wasn't as progressive in being able to help build a hardware business up there.
So I'll at least start with this. Number one, I went to medical school in Cincinnati, lived there for 4 years, loved it. Yeah. Huh? UC? Yeah. I will say that even though there's a lot of work to do and there's a lot more attention and capital that's needed, especially in the Midwest and places like Cincinnati, I've been at it since 2014, and there has been significant progress, even though it doesn't feel like that in a vacuum. There are people that still move to get funding or travel to get funding, but there are a lot of people who are coming in town because of the Midwest and the resources available. That's actually what keeps me up in the morning, to continue driving and recruiting people to the Midwest, to get more funds there, to get more ecosystem kind of energized. I think the corporates need to be a lot more engaged. They're starting to, but there's a lot of money and capital sitting there. They want to see their communities improve, but they're not participating yet. So I hope to be one person in one organization that at least contributes to that, but there's a lot more work to do.
No, I was just going to say, if my wish comes true, look at something like P&G. If they truly adopted a programmatic approach to not just think about investing, but really think about helping entrepreneurs locally and, throughout the Midwest, throughout the world, the expertise they have around manufacturing and everything they're doing, it's just such a huge asset, and that would help all the entrepreneurs there in Cincinnati, and then insert, big co here for all those other cities throughout the Midwest.
Yes, please.
Okay, this is wonderful. Jersey girl, live in New York City. Sorry, but I'm glad I came to the Midwest because this is where impact investing is being discussed, nowhere else. So this is exciting, and I have worked for Chicago-based companies and spent time in Kentucky. So my question is, ROI in this impact space, forget about what's happening in the banking business, but in general, when you look at deals as well as growing your companies, how are you, as of late, maximizing the ROI, because it is often, let's just say, a term that's harder to come by and achieve in the realm of impact?
So we get this question from every single LP in every single one of our funds. And it really breaks down to the word impact, even though it is what every organization wants to do, makes it feel philanthropic. You're going to get a lesser return because you're focused on ESG, or you're focused on specific communities, or you're focused in different groups. We believe that's bullshit. That's number two. I have one more left. Those are the things that our world is moving towards. Those are the communities that people are choosing to support. And those are the ways that the dollars are going to go the furthest. Our teams look at it as a marketing opportunity that greatly offsets the trouble of, we're asking for a report on your sustainability while you're also sending us how you're doing as a business. So it's something which is really hard to translate through everything. But in the Midwest, we've learned that you don't have to ignore your ROI to have a social return on impact as well.
So is it true that impact investing comes with required metrics that are measurable and improvable? Because there are firms that I've spoken to that adhere to that, and then there are others that don't even acknowledge that. Is there like a standard of some sort, not necessarily geographically, but as an asset class?
Yeah, as an asset class, impact investing is not an asset class. Impact investing is investing. Impact is a part of the thesis. And every single fund that I know at least defines it separately. It is a situation where the fund is saying that it matters beyond just the dollars. It's not to the level of a B Corp or something else where it's really, really stringent and it's official. But impact investing pretty much is promising your investors that their dollar is going to do good along with doing well.
And I'll just add, it's almost like a food label. When it says healthy food, you have to look at the ingredients. Right now, it's still a very gray area. Impact is a very big marketing term right now. So it's really important to look at track record, action. Right now, we're trying to put our metrics front and center so you don't have to do that research. But it's something to really think about and look into because everyone's using impact investing.
Yes, please.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, good. I'm actually an electrical engineer. I work for a company called Tarform. We're a motorcycle company, and I guess this kind of goes with like lifestyle. And the CEO, the founder, he can't be here, so I'm here, but he's not paying me to be here. We are really passionate about the company, but with capitalist venture and VC, it's at that point where we've kind of ran out of money, and each motorcycle we sell kind of keeps the light on for another week. It's hard to get capital because it's like, oh, you're a lifestyle. We can't really grow that much. We've given you what we can give you. We don't really want to invest anymore because we don't think that electrical vehicles are ever really going to be a thing, especially since like our founder motorcycle costs $50,000 for one bike. So it's kind of difficult, and I guess my question is like, what is the best way to kind of push past that to actually get investors interested again, and especially things like lifestyle?
There's a lot of people on this panel that are more technical and better with numbers than me that will get into details, but I'd say two things. Number one, I wouldn't classify this lifestyle, because you're actually building a physical thing. So it's more manufacturing, and there's probably some innovation in there. But I would stop and just recognize where you're at in a way you don't understand. What I heard there was, you sell a bike and you make money. So that's like 5 wins in there. You have a thing that physically exists, you know how to build it, you know how to sell it, and when you sell it, you actually produce a profit, which means someone wants it and you make money. So you've solved 90% of the challenge on the journey. So now the challenge for you is, you're making bikes one at a time. What's the point where you could make 100 bikes or 1,000 bikes, and what do the economies of scale look like there? If I'm someone, maybe not me, but somebody in this crowd, there's a compelling conversation you need to be able to articulate there of what's the point at which this becomes to a different place, and then what's different from your bike from all the other bikes that exist. But you've won so much of the battle. I'll hand it over.
I'm just going to say there might be no better place in the world to build a motorized vehicle than Detroit, but just going to throw that out there.
We can have that conversation too about relocation and all of that.
Hi there, Sarah Armstrong, Senior Account Executive with Treble Public Relations. Our client roster is basically B2B tech startups. And so one of our clients was actually a fund, which was a little bit interesting and unique. Black Founders Matter out of Portland, Oregon. One of their biggest struggles, and something that we help to kind of get out into the media was the lack of investment in BIPOC founders, and particularly women. I believe the stat as of 2021 was like less than 6% of investments were in BIPOC founders and 2% of that being women. So I guess from your perspective, what do you think should change in venture? What steps should be made in venture to change that statistic?
Everything. But now I'll pass it over to Navin.
Yeah, no, we talk about this a lot. There's a lot of work to do. Number one is being aware of that, because when you talk to a lot of funds, it seems like, oh, really? Number two, the network. There's a good old boys network in most, really, networks of funds. So when people reach for companies or pipelines or deal flow, they go their old ways of, hey, let me ask this person, or our current founder has a group of people. Like, their pipeline is very limited. So it's widening that funnel. And one thing that was really cool we did in 2020 before the pandemic was we did something with the Chicago Bulls, a pitch competition. And we basically had the city of Chicago be able to apply, they advertise it, etc. And we found our funnel to be very diverse. We ended up investing in, and the winner of the competition was called Honest Game, 2 women founders, badass, they're continuing to grow. But it really opened our eyes of just trying things differently to get and open that pipeline. That's one aspect.
So people tend to invest in companies that solve problems that they understand. And so when you look at the panel where the decision is being made, and I've been on panels where I had to explain to people why a hair salon was trying to expand and add a daycare in a vacant storefront next door, because they didn't understand the barrier that that was addressing. And so as you look in all of these different sectors, as new perspective comes to the table, yes, there's a cause marketing component to it. There's a take a little more risk component to it. Part of it also is just understanding and I don't want to, forgive me, I forget her name, but I sat on a panel the other day, or watched a panel yesterday morning, and the woman said, God, I'm drawing a complete blank right now. She said, women's sports, people still tend to look at it as an initiative versus a business opportunity. So if folks understand the economics of women solving problems for women and BIPOC founders solving problems for them, and look at the economics of the market opportunities, maybe they start to shift the way they're scrutinizing these deals. Instead of it just being, well, I don't know, I'm not familiar, I don't understand the problem, this founder doesn't look like what I know a founder to do, I'm extra scrutinizing the team. It's like, I'm missing out on this market upside because I'm not in this. And if they thought about it that way, there might be a different decision-making matrix that apply to the outcome. Yeah.
Please.
Thank you all. Hello. Thank you all for this panel. One more plug for the Detroit founders out there as well. I grew up in Cleveland, spent most of my career on the East Coast, came back to Detroit to build a 100% gluten-free fast casual called Breadless. And as I love how much pride there is in the Midwest, right? And every single person here has so much pride for exactly where they're from. And I'm curious, like, how much cross-pollination actually is there besides in Detroit or in Columbus or in even Cincinnati or in Chicago? How much cross-pollination is there amongst the various managers so that you all can sort of collaborate and increase the overall capital access on your respective deals by sharing?
Yeah, I have fully embraced a cross-pollination collaborative mindset with other co-investors and then also just others in the ecosystem on the investing side in general. So in my role as director of collaboration, I do really sit on like post-investment support, all the ways to support entrepreneurs once we've invested. And so the community that exists in that world of what's sometimes coined VC platform, we are a community of collaborators that all want to help our founders. And I have truly embraced that idea of, kind of, we all perform better the more we work together. And I think that's such a Midwest thing, and that's just like why I love like working and operating here.
And I'll give a huge shout out to an organization called Venture Next. Yeah, VentureNext is awesome. I work with them, so I can't be too proud. But what they do is they bring hundreds of different venture funds from across the country together on these calls to share deal flow that is specifically funding the Midwest. And we have representation from all of the Midwestern states. And I would say everyone defines the Midwest differently. I think that Pittsburgh is the Eastern Coast, but ultimately, if it's someone who is building and being collaborative with the rest of the what used to be called flyover territory, then it embraces it. But definitely look up VentureNext. I mean, it's hundreds of funds that just want to bring money together to support companies like yours.
I gotta jump in here. So here's what cross-pollination looks like for me. You're here. Wolf, we need to get them in the Columbus market. We need to get them in the Chicago market. We need to get them in Columbus and Cincinnati, in Cleveland and Cincinnati. Make it happen, make it happen, make it happen. I'll help close the gap. That's what it looks like for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Alvin Irby. I run a literacy nonprofit called Barbershop Books. We put children's books in reading spaces in black barbershops around the country. During the pandemic, when the barbershops closed, we developed a reading identity exploration and assessment program. And over the last 3 years, we pretty much have gotten feedback from all of the different people who've implemented it that an ed tech platform is the next step in the evolution of what we've done. And now I'm realizing, like, as I'm having conversations with superintendents, with library system leaders, they're like, how much does it cost? When can we buy it? And we're a nonprofit, and the timelines for securing funding is very different. And also, launching an ed tech product is very different from managing a program. So I guess my question is, for a nonprofit that's considering creating a for-profit vehicle to bring an ed tech product to market, what suggestions would you have in terms of building out a separate type of business vehicle to get knowledge, resources, and to connect with people who are looking to fund those types of things? Thank you so much.
First off, what you're doing is amazing, and thank you. I will just say, you're creating a social enterprise, and that social enterprise is amazing. It has a bunch of different venues that it could go down, but there are organizations out there to support you. And catch up with me after this, and I will connect you with some of those. But in the last couple of years, we have seen more and more nonprofits having to pivot from strictly relying on their grant funding and their partnerships to having to create creative solutions, which in many ways bridges the line between one platform and another and one legal entity and another. And there has never been a better time to get in front of this curve and to do startup spin-offs from nonprofits because the audience is ready to listen and they're ready to partner.
I'll just add, first of all, that's awesome. I love what you're about, what your nonprofit's about. We're actually very deep into ed tech, and I have two partners here that are staring at me and nodding. We'll make sure we all talk afterwards about getting grants, public-private support, community support, even existing higher ed educational school systems that would potentially support this. There's a lot of great momentum going towards there. You can just come up here, man.
Barbershop Books, we're actually going to be partnering with the Columbus Library System to create child-friendly reading spaces in 10 barbershops in Columbus and 10 barbershops in Cleveland. And also, the United Way of Austin is going to be sponsoring, we're in conversations about sponsoring 10 barbershops here to get more black boys reading. So I'm excited about us coming to the Midwest as well. If you're here on the 13th, I'm going to be receiving the South by Southwest Community Service Award on behalf of Barbershop Books. But to everybody, anything you can do, everything you can do, please help the babies read. All right, thank you so much, y'all.
Fuck yeah. All right, that was my third.
just talking about the babies, man.
Kids need energy more than anybody else. I just want to thank all of you for being here with us today. It was really incredible to be able to share this stage with these three amazing friends of mine, and the questions have been incredible. But the conversation has to continue. You're here because you want to hear from us, but I can tell you we want to hear from you more. And I hope that this is a first step in all of our friendships together. I would like to thank all three of our panelists for coming down to South by Southwest and agreeing to something. Also, I didn't use any of the questions I told them I was going to use. And they did perfect. Let's hear it for them really quick. All right. Thank you, South by Southwest. And for me, most importantly, thank you to the incredible team at the Midwest House, the staff at Half Step, Tip Your Bartenders. Thank you for fulfilling me with joy today.